What's Freaky Fridays? It's me, MT, and welcome back to the Heavy Spoiler Show. And in honor of the Halloween season, Rick and Morty Season 7 continues with an episode 2 that features the scariest scenario that Rick could ever imagine, merging his mind with Jerry's. Today, we're going to break this episode down frame by frame to analyze all those details that you could have missed, because let's face it, two heads are better than one. So let's dive into it. This episode starts with Jerry disturbing Rick in the garage in order to get Rick to discover if his neighbor Gene is lying to him about possessing his rake. And upon Rick's refusal to help him, Jerry insults Rick by saying that Rick is wasting his brain. This leads Rick to swap minds with Jerry using one of these weird pasta strainer brain helmets, an invention of Rick's heavily implied to be a parody of Doc Brown's failed mind-reading machine that he uses on Marty McFly in the first Back to the Future movie, which would make sense considering that Rick and Morty are of course themselves parodies of Doc and Marty. This being the case, this reference to Back to the Future has been sitting in the background of this garage mysteriously throughout the entire series, not being revealed to have any specific function until this episode. I have a feeling that this helmet might actually be a precursor prototype to the technology of Rick's helmets from the Morty's Mind Blower episode, as these helmets appear to create a similar glowing liquid of both Rick and Jerry's memories to those found within the liquid glowing memories in Rick's memory stash. The blue and green liquids that come out of Rick and Jerry's heads seem to correspond to the colors of their shirts, much like how Rick and Morty's minds were blue and yellow at the end of Morty's Mind Blowers after their shirts. We even see the pasta strainer helmet appear next to one of the memory replay helmets in the post-credits scene of Morty's Mind Blowers, possibly hinting that these two pieces of technology are linked. Jerry then compares Rick's consciousness transfer plan to Freaky Friday, which is of course the name of the popular 1972 novel by Mary Rogers that spawned a number of movie adaptations. The most popular being 2003's Freaky Friday featuring Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan. Then Rick's garage AI that was introduced in Season 5, Episode 8's Rickternal Friendshine of the Spotless Mort tries to save the day after Jerry and Rick couldn't last more than 10 seconds in each other's shoes. That very same episode from Season 5 seems to be super important for this current episode, as Memory Rick would surprisingly be the one to save Rick and Jerry from their new Jericky personality in the end. Memory Rick is of course the version of Rick from Bird Person's memories of when he was 35 years old, who snuck into Rick's mind and tried to hide there at the end of that episode. The post-credit scene to the Rickternal Friendshine of the Spotless Mort had real Rick offering Memory Rick a beer and a real body, but it seems like Memory Rick never took real Rick on that offer for fear of becoming a grumpy alcoholic of an old man like him. But anyways, when the two wake up and argue about who is going to fix their Freaky Friday fuck-up, Jerry calls Rick a fritzing R2-D2 when Rick's implants start to act up, which is of course a reference to the moment in Star Wars when R2-D2 freaks out while glitching out. And when the two are trying to threaten Chuxley on the phone, Rick tells Jerry that it's more intimidating to tell the bad guys where they are, like Liam Neeson, which is of course a reference to the Taken film starring Liam Neeson. And I love how confident Morty is at the beginning of this episode, not even fazed that aliens dressed up like 1960s American mobsters are holding him hostage, with Morty's most badass moment happening if you slow down the moment when Rick and Jerry come crashing through the window. Look at how unfazed Morty is as he ducks his head without even looking at the ship approaching behind him. Like, that is the attitude of a boy that has a whole lot of faith in his super grumpy science grandpa. This kid has been on too many adventures with Rick to have something like this faze him. But anyways, the walls of Chuckley's office seem to have plaques for some of his most prized kills, like some hunters would hang the heads of deers on a plaque inside their living room or something, including the head of this weird alien whale, as well as what appears to be the outline of a dead body, possibly a memento from this crime boss's first assassination. And a little later, when Rick, Jerry, and Morty engage in a shootout trying to escape Chuxley's crime-infested world, we get a reference to the 1993 movie Coneheads, when Rick himself sprouts his own conehead that he forgot that he designed into his cyborg implants during his Conehead phase. And then, after Morty ditches the mixed up Rick and Jerry, the two decide to set aside their differences and come together for the sake of their son/grandson, which then leads to a nice bonding action montage set to the 2002 song We're Going to Be Friends by the White Stripes. And while Rick and Jerry shoot their way out, Rick saves Jerry from a 5-point alien ninja shuriken. And then when the three boys arrive home, Morty tells his mom and sister that the mixed up Rick and Jerry stop by every fast food place in the galaxy to make a giant burger with multiple patties, which I thought was a very thematically appropriate gag, considering that this episode is all about the melding of two separate people into completely new life forms. And since this episode ends with the mixed up Rick and Jerry combining into one giant monstrosity of a double-headed deity, this galactic burger also serves as a little bit of foreshadowing, as it demonstrates that this new Rick and Jerry are beginning to embrace their new mixed up life, which is very likely why they chose to rename themselves as Burger and Fries. But after Burger and Fries ditch their family to roam space as partners in crime, like an 80s action duo, the pair witness a car crash into an alien's cart of fruit, with that alien seemingly intentionally designed after Zeb from Star Wars Rebels. And while Burger and Fries escape in their intergalactic conjoined mobile home of clashing styles, the two do a Howard Dean scream in celebration, which is a funny callback to the failed candidacy of Howard Dean, whose presidential campaign never recovered after his body produced a scream unheard of by man until that point. There were so many parodies of that scream after that. I also love how both Rick and Jerry are wearing Hawaiian shirts to reflect Jerry's uncool fashion sense, and even bought an alien hula dancer for the dashboard too. But anyways, when Rick and Jerry's family go to investigate the carnage that Burger and Fries left behind, Summer judges Burger and Fries' burger calling cards that they shove into the mouths of their victims, much like infamous serial killers have done in real life, like how the Zodiac Killer would leave behind encrypted messages, or how the Texas Eyeball Killer stole the eyeballs off of his victims as his unique signature, which is disgusting, Jesus Christ. And later, after the Smith family gets kidnapped by Chuxley's crew, Burger and Fries start snorting some green alien drug crystals. Crystals that we learn Morty has become a little too addicted to selling later on in the episode. Like, it is so funny to see Morty completely 180 his attitude about being used by Rick to get drug crystals, ever since Morty got pissed off at Rick for tricking him into doing so in Season 1, Episode 11's Risky Business. However, after Burger and Fries snort their last crystal, they decide to transform into the perfectly balanced godlike being known as Jiriki, seemingly modeled after the four-armed Hindu god Shiva, a god who represents the clashing of the dualities of protection and destruction, much like Jiriki was the result of a combination between a super nice dude and an incredibly destructive man. So I found that symbolism to be a super nice touch. And I also really enjoyed the reference to the original Donkey Kong game that Jiriki makes as they toss barrels at their enemies before pounding their chest in dominance like Donkey Kong does. And then, as Chuxley dies from his earlier conehead wound, Jiriki offers him a moldy-ass burger as his final meal, which is of course reflected of Jerry's inner kindness, while also subtly reflecting Rick's sadistic nature, as both Burger and Fries would leave burger calling cards with their victims. So Chuxley died with a burger on him, much like the rest of Burger and Fries' gang-affiliated victims. And of course, the episode ends with Jiriki stepping on a rake, allowing for the root personalities of Rick and Jerry to finally resurface, which then leads Rick to tell everyone that Memory Rick is still inside of his mind and was actually responsible for keeping their two personalities intact, with the post-credit scene of the episode following up on this by showing us that Memory Rick has hopped from Rick's mind into the nonsensical prison of stupidity that is Jerry's mind. Like, it would be so dope if we got an episode all about that action-packed mind adventure a little later on in the season, because I am genuinely curious as to what Memory Rick has been up to this entire time, and exactly why he never actually took real Rick up on his offer to be given a real body. And finally, when the episode ends with a zoom out from a space bar bulletin board, we see a picture of Burger and Fries partying at that very same bar the night that they would get banned from it. Next to their picture appears to be an advertisement to learn drum lessons with a dude named Sam, and a photograph of what appears to be Medusa, a photograph with a kiss marking left on it in lipstick, which is kind of hilarious considering that whoever took that photo of Medusa very likely turned to stone after doing so. But hey, nobody said simping was easy. But chances are that Medusa lady probably got banned after that too, which is why her face is probably on here. And finally, to the right of Burger and Fries' photograph, we can see two receipts for two separate bar tabs. One one with a total of 2,552 credits and no tip, which is kind of crazy, and another with a 56,755 credit total with a 700 credit tip. So needless to say, whoever those two people were definitely got fucked up that night. And I wouldn't be surprised if this was implied to be Burger and Fries' tab that they paid off before they became Juricki. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video. You can follow me at Messertainment on Twitter and Instagram or wherever if you guys want to see me post some weird shit. And hey, if you want even more Rick and Morty goodness, do not forget to check out Whitney Vision on YouTube, because my girl Whitney Van Lanningham has the best breakdowns for all things animation. I'm telling you, Whitney is the animation queen. Go check her out at Whitney Vision today. She's got some really great stuff. But most importantly, do not forget to follow Heavy Spoilers here on YouTube, because we are always uploading some really great stuff and you don't want to miss it. But yes, again, thank you guys so much for watching this video. You guys are amazing, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.